Hello, really appreciate you taking the time to sit down today on this Strategy Unscripted episode. I've had the pleasure of getting to know you a little bit over recent months, and you have a connection with our co-founders as well. And very excited to have a conversation with you today related to your background in manufacturing, your work in financial services, of course, again, related to manufacturing, and also your work now moving forwards. So to begin with, maybe you could just give a little bit of an introduction to yourself and your professional work.
Ben, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here. As you said, Halil Bedevi, I'm the founder and CEO of Manufacturing IQ, an advisory set up to help manufacturing and supply chain related companies to connect, improve, grow, and succeed. Background-wise, I'm a chartered engineer, studied engineering, worked in manufacturing sector for more than 30 years in various different sectors and companies, from startups, SMEs to PLCs. Very passionate about UK manufacturing and promoting UK manufacturing and fostering collaboration and positive change. So that's me in a nutshell.
Fantastic. And we'll get into some of the specifics soon, but manufacturing in particular, first, it's an incredibly broad subject, an incredibly broad industry, but also it's an industry which is going through an interesting time at the moment, let's say. What's your take on the current state of play in the UK manufacturing industry, but also globally?
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased perhaps, but manufacturing is very, very important, I think, to our economy, our lives, prosperity, security and resilience. And I know many people are aware, but for those who are not fully aware, manufacturing is still a massive sector in the UK. Contributes more than £200 billion a year, 2.6 million people work in manufacturing, and almost half of the exports from the UK are manufactured goods. So it's very, very important. Yes, it's going through a challenging period for different reasons. We've had COVID, Brexit, the geopolitics, the conflicts which are happening, energy prices, general costs, protectionism, things like that. It is quite a challenging and competitive period globally. So very interesting times.
And maybe we can just dive into some of the specific roles that you've had over the years and some of the organizations that you've worked within.
Sure.
Because you've had quite a storied career so far. It's continuing and it's still going onwards and upwards.
Of course.
But maybe we could just dive into some of the roles that you played previously.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of mention something, as we talk about strategy and you're specialist in strategy, it has always been my strategy to, study and keep learning and increase my experience in different organizations and in different subsectors. Now, of course, there's a common thread. There's nothing wrong with it because it's all about manufacturing. Worked in sort of startup technology companies, small and medium-sized manufacturing companies, right through to sort of PLCs and a FTSE 100 company as well. This is mainly in manufacturing, but as I said, just very recently, I was the UK head of manufacturing for Santander Bank, and people say, what were you doing in a bank? We're certainly not banking and finance.
Previously, you were in Airbus.
I worked at Airbus, yeah. One of the places I worked for
Airbus.
Airbus
To Santander is a bit of a change.
Yeah, but I mean, as I said, it's all about using my manufacturing background and expertise. So obviously at Airbus, making very interesting products. In fact, it was satellites and spacecraft, some of them worth around £450 million each. So very exciting time. At Santander, again, I was head of manufacturing sector, helping the bank with its strategy and proposition to help them kind of work better and grow their manufacturing portfolio, which worked well, really. So, as I said, it's anything to do with manufacturing and supply chains, as long as it's in my area of expertise, I was happy to do, and I really enjoyed making lots of exciting products in different companies, as I said, from domestic appliances to aircraft engine parts to automotive consulting, spacecraft, and many other things.
And I often say to those that we speak with on Strategy Unscripted, but also clients that we're fortunate enough to serve and others, that even the word of strategy is very fluffy, and the topic of strategy is so often quite pie in the sky.
Yeah.
How does the concept and the topic of strategy work and thinking strategically play into the work that you've conducted in manufacturing and supply chain? Was it part of the process you're running? Did you have responsibility for that? Or was it not at that point in time under your responsibility?
Yeah, obviously, earlier in career, you have less to do with strategy in terms of formulating and creating this strategy. But with or without realizing, everybody is part of the strategy and should be. They need to know, what part they play in the strategy. So I always try to find out what the strategy was and how my role fitted with the strategy. Down the line, I have been involved and be responsible for strategies. Now, I'm not a kind of a pure strategist, but strategy has been very much a big part of my role, not only at Santander, as I said, helping with the manufacturing strategy, but also in other organizations and working as consultant, and also working externally in other places, additional work I do with Cranfield and most recently at Cambridge Institute for Manufacturing. Strategy is very much part of it, and I think a lot of people think strategy is the plan, but plan is part of strategy. But I think strategy is a lot more than that for me, and we can elaborate on that if you like. So, and
let's jump into it. Let's elaborate on it. Strategy, as we said, for a lot of people it's planning. For a lot of people it's decisions. For some people it's analysis. For others it's the budget.
Yeah.
Within the organizations that you've had the privilege to contribute to, what did the strategic planning and execution process look like? What did it mean to you?
Yeah. Well, let's start with what it means to me. Strategy to me means the way you go about reaching an objective, your goals, where you want to be, at some point in the future. It's kind of a vehicle to get you there. It's the sort of the overall game plan, if you like. So it's a combination of thinking, planning and executing, things, collection of things, so that you're adding value to your clients and you are, making sure your organization is profitable and competitive. That's what strategy should be, and that's what it is for me. It can be a bit fluffy and so on, and some companies, I think, take great pride in keeping it secret, not only from external kind of audience, but also internal, and that probably isn't right,
And let's take your time at Santander, for example.
Yeah.
Within Santander, you're part of a behemoth. You're part of a huge global organization with tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And of course, you were in charge of one particular area of that organization. Were there challenges associated with both building and executing the strategic plan on what you had responsibility for, whilst at the same time connecting it to and showing how it connected to the overriding strategic plan of the UK business as well as the wider global business?
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's a very good point, because companies don't have just one strategy. There may be one overall strategy, but then below that you've got departmental strategies, various other strategies, whether it might be, marketing strategy, R&D strategy, and so on. So, people need to make sure they all kind of fit together well. And at Santander, I was part of the strategy to provide our customers something beyond banking, and that's what we called it. It was beyond banking strategy, part of that, which was to provide clients help and guidance in terms of growing their businesses internationally, helping them to connect with the ecosystem in the UK and globally, using solution providers, whoever could help them. So that was, part of the overall strategy, obviously, to grow manufacturing sector and grow the presence of the bank in the UK and obviously globally. We had over 200,000 employees. So as you said, quite a few, big organization, and it's quite natural and right that there are different strategies in different countries, in different sectors at different times. And strategy should be dynamic. To me, it's not just one thing you stick to all your life for years. I mean, it needs to be dynamic because the landscape changes all the time, and that's why one of the reasons why some strategies don't succeed, because it's designed for calm seas, and
seas are
very rarely calm, and it becomes a case of having a very nice looking, impressive strategy, very bold and ambitious, and then having to explain down the line why it didn't happen and it didn't work, saying that things have changed. Well, they always will. So I think as a part of every strategy should be to take into account the challenges and changes out there, because your competitors will change, the landscape changes, and a successful strategy should be realistic and achievable given everything that is happening and may happen along the way.
We're starting to touch on some of the challenges of strategic work and thinking strategically and executing.
Yeah.
So let's dive into that. Let's go from the macro more to the micro.
Yeah.
As someone who's sat in the seat as a business leader within organizations, and also now sits in the seat of supporting business leaders in those organizations, for you personally, what were the big visceral pains and challenges that you faced sitting in the hot seat?
Yeah.
What were the biggest difficulties or roadblocks for you?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of challenges in creating a strategy, formulating one, and implementing it. Implementation is very, very big part of it. To me, you can't borrow a strategy. You need to make sure it's relevant and appropriate for the organization, and sometimes it could be conflicting or seem to be conflicting with maybe departmental strategies and so on. So, first you have to deal with the internal kind of the machinery, the politics, if you like, or the overall strategy, and making sure what you're creating fits in well and will work within that. It's very important, especially in big organizations, to even know what everybody is doing and get agreement and explain. That's one of the kind of the challenges. Now, having created one and agreed one, then communicating this strategy to everybody is really crucial. And I don't think it's something that can be left to, the HR department to roll out, or just a CEO to do a town hall talk to tell people, or the posters which are kind of plastered around. And you too often see these things happening exactly like that. And then if you ask somebody, if you pull somebody in a company, and I've done that sometimes working as an award judge, when you go on visits, to site visits, you say, right, what's your company strategy? Okay, you'll be very surprised how many people actually know and understand it.
I wouldn't be too surprised. I've seen it.
So those things are big challenges, and look, if it was really easy to come up with and implement strategies and make them work, well, everybody would be doing a really good job, and sometimes they're not, and there are lots of reasons and challenges.
Yeah, absolutely so. And now you're working with these organizations as a consultant, a little bit from the outside in. From a best practice standpoint, if we can even forget the word strategy for now, and we use it a lot, but from a best practice standpoint, how are you trying to support them in ultimately achieving their objectives and getting from where they are today to where they want to be? So keeping it very simple, how do you go about the process?
Well, I think you need to really understand as much as possible about the company. And as you said, who are they? What are they? Where do they want to go? Is it achievable? If it isn't, why? And what can be done to achieve it? Sort of formulating. Once those are agreed, you then sort of look at putting some meat on the bones. All right, how are we going to achieve this? Do you need external help? Can it be done internally? Are there any tools and data that can be used? And just to kind of make it organic and make sure the company realizes it isn't something you kind of put together in a report form or slide deck and lose it in the filing cabinet and come back to it later. It is very much a thing that needs driving, it needs pursuing and adjusting along the way to reach where you want to reach. Otherwise, sometimes when it's seen as a long-term thing we can get to, we don't need to worry about it now. Well, without short and medium term, there's no long term. So you can't just jump from here to the long term to the end. You need to go through the process, and some people are very good. They know all this. Some may need reminding or kind of educating a little bit, if you like. At the end of the day, it needs to work. If it doesn't work, there is no point. So whatever is needed, every organization is different. I think that's part of the challenge. That's why they can't just sort of buy a strategy and say, right, we'll do that, because you can't, because people are different, products are different, things are different, and it's a very important point to realize.
And people need to own it. They need to have responsibility.
Absolutely.
They need to be dedicated and committed to it.
Yeah.
Within the manufacturing space in particular, as we said, there are a ton of trends and forces at play in the market and geopolitical events that are happening that are hugely disruptive.
Yeah.
But also technological advancements as well, whether it's in automation, whether it's in robotics or advanced robotics, whether it's in AI and the integration of AI in manufacturing processes and supply chain and so on. Do you see that as more of a challenge for these organizations, or do you see it as more of an opportunity?
Very interesting question. So in terms of trends, digitalization is a huge trend, and within that we can mention AI, robotics and automation, some huge trend. As well as environmental, so sustainability, net zero, that's a huge trend as well, and electrification. Things like AI can be very useful. I mean, I see AI is a very powerful tool. Now, if you're good at using this tool, you can speed up your job, you can do a better job. If you can't use it, it's easier to hurt yourself, right? So, and if you apply that to strategy, yes, you can use your strategy, AI to help you with strategy. I've heard people just kind of using AI to give them a strategy, and as AI gets more powerful, I suppose that will be easier and better. But people need to be able to use it correctly and well, and at the end of the day, implementation needs to be done by humans, and the judging element, the adjustments, the customization needs to be still. Maybe I might change my mind down the line, but at the moment, people really must be very involved in what they're doing. Yeah,
absolutely, sir. I don't want to keep you too much longer because I'm aware of speaking for a while, and you're very busy. But just last question from my side. You spoke at the beginning about the importance of learning and continually learning and improving your skill set and being open to new ideas and new concepts.
Yeah.
How do you go about that? Are there certain books you read that you particularly like? Are there certain podcasts you listen to? What does that look like for you in your life?
Yeah, as I said, I think learning, keeping fresh, keeping up to date is a theme, is a strategy. I like doing that, and people who do that. I read reports, I listen to podcasts, I listen to a few of yours. I talk to people a lot. I think sometimes when you talk to people, you pick up things which you wouldn't find in reports, maybe things they wouldn't say openly. So real insights are very important. So I get those from kind of a CEO level people or heads of trade bodies, people like that. It's very, very important to kind of know what's going on. There is so much information and data out there. It's impossible to kind of constantly read and because you could be doing that and nothing else. So you need to keep that in balance and know what you need to look at and read when and do it in the right measure, really, to get a balanced view.
And I said that was my last question, but I'm just going to ask one more.
Sure.
What are you looking forward to next? Let's focus specifically on the manufacturing sector in the UK.
Yeah.
And as you said before, in the UK specifically, there's this race to net zero and investment now going into a number of different areas of UK manufacturing. What are you most looking forward to over the course of 2025 and into 2026?
Yeah. I mean, AI and the kind of the current situation is changing everything. So we are at a kind of a point of change, a crossroad, really. Things will be defined as we go forward in terms of what happens with geopolitics, technology, and so on. So I'm really looking forward to, how we predict, use, the new kind of world order, if you like, and the manufacturing landscape to make sure UK manufacturing remains strong and competitive towards the future, because things are becoming quite difficult at the moment to trade internationally with protectionism, with rules, new regulations, and so on, tariffs. It's quite a challenge, especially for smaller companies, and we need to help the smaller companies to grow. That's one of the Achilles heels for UK. Wonderful sort of creative kind of new companies and so on, but we are not very good at helping them grow, to become smaller, medium and larger companies. And often we see them kind of lost to abroad. They get taken over and so on. So we need to keep as much as we can, because, as I said, it really is vital for the country.
Well, Halil, look, really appreciate your time. Really appreciate your insights and your
Thank you very
input.
much. Thank you.
And look forward to speaking further soon. And in the meantime, just once again, thank you very much, and look forward to our next steps together.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.